There's a judge they call Paul Newby. He's got criminals on the run. Paul Steely Stare's got them running scared, and he'll take them down one by one.
This political ad, featuring a banjo picker and two witless crooks, aired more than 1,000 times throughout North Carolina.
Paul Newby, justice tough but fair.
Over $2 million from out-of-state super PACs bankrolled this message and its candidate for one of North Carolina's most sacred offices, Supreme Court Justice.
Criminals best beware.
Margaret Dixon. Who does she really care about?
From the sinister to the farcical.
Are you kidding me?
Political ads bombarded our television screens.
Meet the Washington
Misplaced priorities.
Instead of looking out for North Carolina.
Jobs.
Most were funded by out-of-state donors trying to choose the candidates to represent us and affect the laws that govern us.
These outside groups that have these benign-sounding names
NC sponsored this ad.
are pushing policies that many times run against the interests of North Carolina voters.
A lot of people just throw up their hands when they hear that billions of dollars are going to be spent on the 2012 elections. So like, what on earth can I do?
A blockbuster decision from the Supreme Court today, opening floodgates for companies and unions to spend all the money they want attacking political candidates.
The case is called Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission. In a heated 5-4 decision, a majority ruled that political spending by corporations is equivalent to the free speech of people.
You can imagine banks being very interested in candidates on financial reform, or energy companies on drill baby drill. It's a whole new political world out there.
Justice John Paul Stevens, in an impassioned dissent, said the court was turning its back on decades of efforts to protect elections from the corrupting effects of big money.
When you look at the previous cases prior to Citizens United, they've never gone that far.
This struggle harkens back to the Gilded Age, when railroad and oil tycoons lorded over and all but ran Congress. Their corrupting influence spurred Republican Teddy Roosevelt to call for a ban on all contributions by corporations for any political purpose. No enemy of free government is more dangerous, Roosevelt said, and none so insidious.
Democracy is built around everyday voters, and as long as you have this immense mismatch of people with money versus those everyday voters, democracy cannot survive.
It's particularly troubling at the local level, where those types of resources can make a larger difference than they might be able to make at the federal level.
No state was affected more by the Citizens United decision in terms of state-level politics than North Carolina.
North Carolina's Speaker of the House is answering questions about his campaign finances.
Speaker Thom Tillis is one lawmaker who benefited from big money in politics. Some of his biggest campaign donors come from the consumer finance industry, which since 2010 has contributed over $400,000 to elect Tillis and other lawmakers. So what do you get for $400,000 in campaign contributions? You get House Bill 810. It would allow consumer finance lenders to increase the interest rates they charge their borrowers from 36% to 76%.
Fast loan solutions for when
government watchdog groups call these companies predatory lenders because they prey on financially strapped individuals and families, charging exorbitant interest rates. One group that the lenders target is North Carolina's young soldiers.
My bottom line today is Fort Bragg is absolutely opposed to the House bill and the PCS that address these loans.
Military brass and clean government organizers fought the bill. One general angrily wrote that the bill harms Fort Bragg soldiers and their families, and it adversely impacts unit readiness at a critical time in our nation's history.
There were stories that Republican legislators were so uncomfortable they were planning to vote against it because they wanted to vote with the military. But at the last minute, a couple in a committee who had said they would vote against it actually voted for it, and told people later they were visited by the Speaker of the House, and a top lieutenant who told them they had to vote for this, and the implication being we need more money from the consumer finance industry.
If you need to get your hands on some cash now, we can help.
Speaker Tillis got his party members to pass House Bill 810, but all the publicity around the issue scared the state Senate from taking it up. In 2013, the bill is likely to come up again.
This is the way it works, and it happens over and over in industry after industry. Money talks on Jones Street, and the more money you have, the louder voice you have.
I heard from a number of colleagues that they were called into rooms and met with energy funders saying, we'll finance your campaign if you go with us on this fracking bill. I couldn't find anything more direct link than that, and that's troubling to me. It's basically pay-to-play legislation now.
In the wake of Citizens United, corporate donors are shaping the laws affecting virtually every aspect of our lives, from the cost of our electricity to the safety of our groundwater.
The super PACs are pouring in $40,000 and $50,000 a pop on TV advertising. And that was just unheard of a few years ago. So it's a troubling trend.
I think we're teetering now toward turning into a society that's completely dominated by a handful of interests. It's going to be harder and harder for average people to have any sort of impact on their government and the decisions that affect their lives. It's a very ominous time.
Whether you're Republican or Democrat, it's just out of control. And somehow we need to go ahead and rein this thing back in. And that's why I'm going to cast my vote tonight in favor of this resolution.
On October 3, 2012, the Greensboro City Council passed a resolution to stem the influence of corporate money, stating that only human beings, not corporations, are endowed with constitutional rights.
And that's why Citizens United, that part right there really excited me, that the power that the people have, that's what stimulated me. Going, wait a minute, if this is something we can do locally, I can do that.
Who's involved? It was regular folk for the most part. All you have to say is, this is the decision that made corporations people, and there you look at you. Corporations are not people, right, that's the whole point. So it sells itself.
We are asking the Raleigh City Council.
Across North Carolina, citizens have been urging their city councils to pass resolutions to amend the Citizens United decision.
You start with your neighbors. You start with your friends. You start with your community. You go meet with your city council members and say, I want to make a change, my voice isn't being heard.
Hundreds of cities across the nation have passed resolutions, as have 7 state legislatures.
They want to see a change in how democracy is run. And that's the way it should be. One person, one vote.
Ordinary citizens have inspired amendments before. The 19th gave women the right to vote. The 24th ended the poll tax. And the 26th gave the vote to 18-year-olds. So why not pass an amendment to get big money out of politics? North Carolina has already moved toward clean elections through a program passed by the General Assembly in 2008, before the Citizens United decision. Candidates who participate raise small donations from individuals that are then matched by public grants.
I spent very little time fundraising because of the way the public financing laws were in place, and I was able to spend 100% of my time campaigning, meeting with people.
Number one issue when I ran for insurance commissioner.
We focused not on fundraising, but on the people, on the voters. We also had the time to do all the head-to-head, one-on-one, substantive, real debates, where you could test each other, question each other, take questions from the audience for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours.
Their campaign was so well conducted that 2 weeks before their election, Goodwin and his opponent co-authored an op-ed praising North Carolina's public campaign finance program.
We agreed that people should have the power to determine who their elected officials are and not the special interests.
He's a Republican. He's a Democrat. We don't agree on everything, but we both worry that North Carolina judges have to raise money for their election campaigns from those who have an axe to grind. That's why we're supporting the Public Finance Fund.
But after Citizens United, the party backed by the biggest donors now dominates the North Carolina General Assembly. In 2011, they discontinued funding for many of our state's public finance programs.
It's time to go on the record.
He is disdained by some, praised by others. And no matter what you think, the man has influence. And tonight we are on the record with Art Pope.
Art Pope is a wealthy businessman in North Carolina. He owns Variety Wholesalers, which is Rose's and Maxway chain stores and other chain stores that cater to low-income communities. He supports the John Locke Foundation, Civitas. Americans for Prosperity. He's got connections to the American Legislative Exchange Council. So he's very interested in politics and very connected and also wealthy, and uses his money to push his ideology and agenda forward.
A 2011 article by a prize-winning investigative journalist titled State for Sale called Pope the sugar daddy of state politics. It noted that Pope and his network of organizations spent more than $40 million electing candidates and influencing legislation in North Carolina. The Institute for Southern Studies reported that in 2010, Pope's money transformed the General Assembly by funding 22 state legislative races and winning 18 of them.
Pope was a model of how you could use this new environment to influence politics with your company.
Pope's array of organizations also helped elect a North Carolina Supreme Court justice who endorses Citizens United, and Pope-backed organizations are working to eliminate publicly financed elections.
At every turn, groups like Americans for Prosperity, Civitas Institute, the John Locke Foundation have opposed this idea of trying to level the playing field. The way I look at it is they want Pope-funded elections, not publicly funded elections.
The fact that these special interests are now interested in getting rid of public financing, which helps protect voters against special interests, is really telling. It's an attempt to secure power for the long term in North Carolina by getting rid of the solutions to Citizens United.
I think as community awareness increases about the corrupting effect of corporate control of elections, the imperative to overturn Citizens United will be recognized, and it will happen. I hope you will help it happen. Thank you.
Across the nation, the movement to amend Citizens United has grown from outcry to action. In North Carolina, everyday citizens and local officials are rising up to keep our voices from being drowned out by the tsunami of corporate money that threatens the core American ideal. A government that represents the will of its people.
When I learned about Citizens United, that was it. I said, we need to stop this or we'll never go back.
This is about democracy. This is a democratic reform movement because it's about expanding the voice of everyday people in the decisions that affect their lives.
One person, one vote.